That was my bar. Bar for bar. I know they watch. And if you're watching right now, if you're going to give him some talking points, give him some better talking points.
Well, let's just start with Iran or Iran. People say it differently. But do you think we're headed into World War III here? What do you think's going on?
I'm really concerned. I'm fearful. We have a possibility where we're going to blunder into another war in the Middle East. And just today, actually, to make some news, Thomas Massie, who's a principled Republican, and myself introduced a war powers resolution saying that the president should not get into a war with Iran without coming to Congress. The president, to his credit, ran against the war in Iraq. He ran saying, I don't want any wars. And the reality is that if we strike Iran, they start hitting us back and hitting our troops in the Middle East, terrorist activity. That's going to cost this country a lot of money that should be being spent here at home. It's going to mean people could die who are serving the country.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's take a look at this, at the bill that you guys were thinking about. What is it called?
It's called the War Powers Resolution to Stop a War in Iran, which basically says before the president does anything to go into war with Iran, he's got to get a vote in Congress.
And how long does that take, though, like usually to get a vote in Congress? Like, is there a certain period of time? Like, can they do it in 24 hours? It takes weeks or what?
They could. It's the decision of the Speaker of the House to when he can bring it. He has to bring it within 15 days. But what we want is today. But by the way, there are a lot of Trump supporters who are telling him, don't go into this war. Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, Dave Smith was talking about it. He's he's a comedian who also talks a lot about politics, I think this is a horrible idea, and yeah, people say, well, you don't know a ton about the Middle East. I'm like, that's fine. I don't want people I know, my friends, getting called up. I don't want the children of my friends getting called over to die. I don't even understand how it's an option. The only reason I even kind of want it to be possible is that if Israel goes to war with Iran, then they'll at least stop killing Palestinian people for a day or two, right? You know what I'm saying? That's it's at least point the guns that way, kind of that's where some of my thoughts are.
Well, you've been such a courageous voice on Gaza. I mean, you look at what's going on there, right? Did
they actually do conscription in the U.S.? I mean, yeah, they did. They did the draft, but given the lack of appetite for going to war and the military manpower necessary, I could totally see it, because our numbers, like our military's, the military has a amount that they need to hit in terms of new enlistment, and enlistments have been pretty low for the tail end of the war on terror, and the enlistment numbers actually went up a lot because of 9/11. While the military can still serve as a domineering force all around the world with the poverty draft that it has, you still need so many more troops. And in the absence of some 9/11 style situation that creates a incredible amount of patriotism, oh my God, take a day off, dude. Stop sending me the same link over and over again.
5,000 people killed. Now, Israel says some terrorists, and they're right, some terrorists, but most of them women and children.
Yeah.
You've got 130,000 people injured. You've got over 600,000 kids who are not in school there. You've got the entire population of Gaza being forced into a core.
I want people to understand, my expectation is never that an American politician is going to be honest about this, but if they were, they wouldn't call the members of the spontaneous militia within the Palestinian resistance that is fighting against an illegal belligerent occupier encroaching on their limited amount of sovereignty and human rights as terrorists. Hamas and the entire Palestinian resistance that is currently actively fighting against Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign are 1,000,000% within their legal right to defend themselves under international human rights. Israel, on the other hand, is illegally bombing Gaza as a belligerent occupier of Gaza while simultaneously starving Gaza. They are the terrorists.
Southern corner of Gaza. And then you've got over 400,000 people who are starving, who don't have enough food to live a decent life.
Yeah, and the saddest part I feel like is you see this and you're like, somebody should come help them. That's my first thought a lot of times. And then the saddest thought for me after that is we should come help. Like, it feels like America is the group that would go to help that situation usually.
We're the good guys, right? I mean, we were the good guys in World War II. We saved the world from Nazism. We were the good.
This guy said that doesn't stop them from being terrorists too. No, it actually does. Just because they didn't start it doesn't take away from what they've done in the past. No, it quite literally does. It quite literally does. You're actually completely wrong about this. Okay? War crimes during October 7. War crimes during October 7 should be dealt with through an international tribunal. Were there war crimes on October 7? Absolutely. Okay? But the amount of war crimes committed on October 7 pales in comparison to the metric ton of war crimes that Israel has committed before October 7 and after October 7. War crimes don't get reset. War crimes don't get reset after a certain period. No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. An international tribunal that would accurately assess who was responsible for any war crimes on October 7 and also all of the war crimes post October 7, which are so vast, it would be virtually impossible to accurately make an assessment there. Okay. And even before October 7, like the war crimes that Israel is engaged in, like the crime of an apartheid state, even the acts of resistance historically are usually matched against what the true responsible party, the settler colonial occupying party, has done. This is why, while there are some criminal penalties that are given to people who have resisted against violent criminal occupation, they are limited in terms of the amount of crimes, the actual war crimes that are supposed to be the actual war crime litigation against the occupational force.
Good guys in the Cold War. We stood up to the Soviet Union. People want to think that we are the good guys. Why are we helping Netanyahu in the killing of children, women, and so many Palestinian civilians? Now, look, Israel was hard hit October 7th. I'm sure, like many people, you thought that was horrific, the October 7th attack.
Oh, yeah.
And neither of us have any sympathy for Hamas. They're a terrorist group. But what happened is I supported initially Israel saying, go get those terrorists who committed those horrific attacks on October 7th. But within 3 months, they had destroyed a lot of Hamas. What now is happening, over 2 years later, they're still going and bombing. And they're bombing because Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, two of the people in Netanyahu's cabinet, are saying, don't stop the war, even though they know that they can't.
God, this assessment is so juvenile. And I can't believe this is like one of the most like radical positions that a sitting congressperson could take right now. It's crazy. Like, oh yeah, it's Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir that's really pushing Netanyahu to punish Gaza. Oof. Yeah, that's the reason.
You can't bomb and eradicate Hamas. They haven't been able to do it. And the only thing that's happening is that civilians are getting killed, and Israel actually is becoming less popular in that region. I mean, I was in Saudi Arabia and Jordan. They're losing support.
Yeah.
So
why is Netanyahu trying to drag us into it? What do you think that relationship is like between him and Donald Trump?
So I think Donald Trump actually initially stood up to Netanyahu because he wanted to bring this war to a close. And he didn't want to get dragged in initially to a war in Iran. I mean, you know what Trump's courage was, why he became president in 2016? Do you remember the Republican stage? And they all asked, are you for the Iraq war? And Jeb Bush, who was George Bush's brother, wasn't willing to say that his brother made a mistake.
Oh, yeah, he's a little oil bunny.
You know, and Donald Trump, to his credit, stood up on a Republican stage and said the Iraq war was a disaster. I think that's how he became president. And he ran saying, I want to be a president who ends these wars. I really believe that's what he thought at the time.
Oh, well, sure. Well, I think recently, how we're doing okay without the notes so far, huh?
You're doing great.
Okay, thanks.
I wish people had more common sense like you than the people who are making this foreign policy establishment. Actually, my recommendation is that before Donald Trump makes a decision, he needs to have a conversation with you.
Oh, God.
No, well, to remind him, because I watched your actually clip with him during the presidential campaign, and I said, you made him the most human that I've actually seen him. I mean, your conversation with him about his brother and alcoholism, and then he asks you, what was it like for you to have cocaine and your addiction? And I thought, wow, this is like him.
I'm not gonna lie, I think Ro Khanna's team got that from me. That was my bar for bar.
Having a normal
I
conversation.
know they watch. And if you're watching right now, Ro Khanna's team, okay, if you're going to give him some talking points, give him some better talking points. Stop with this like Hamas terrorism. They're destroying Hamas terrorism, or Itamar Ben-Gvir is actually pushing them to do this, pushing Netanyahu to do this. That's not the truth. Come on.
Conversation.
Yeah, it felt pretty normal.
And so, but I think, do you know anyone, Theo, in your life who's like, yeah, we should go out and go to
You
war?
interviewed him at the DNC? Yes. I've also interviewed him at the Bernie rally as well.
Or with Iran? Like any of the folks you talk
Nobody.
to?
Nobody. Even like hardhead, even guys who like former Navy SEAL, no, none of them. Nobody is saying yes. And I felt like the biggest thing there's so many things right now. And
They do not know who you are, little bro. Okay.
like that I feel like in the world that are kind of stressing people and making people nervous. But one of the things is I felt like it was supposed to be America first. Like we're focusing on like, what are we doing to get things back into America, right?
Exactly.
To like increase like the purpose of being an American, to refill like our hearts with blood and like and make us feel something again here and make us be excited about being an American, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like that was what a lot of the energy was for. And then now that we're caught up here and it feels like we are just working for Israel, I think to a lot of people, I don't know, you just really start to feel very disillusioned pretty quickly.
Also, Ro Khanna literally defended what Israel was doing at the DNC nearly a year since 10/7. So this 2-month narrative that he's talking about right now is such bullshit, and I expect nothing less from Ro Khanna. Yeah. I mean, I talked to him directly. I was like, Israel's doing a genocide. He's like, well, I wouldn't. He was like, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't use those words. I was like, well, I would, because that's what is going on. And many human rights groups would also use that term.
And I don't mean disillusioned in people. I don't mean disillusioned in like the human beings, but this disillusioned in our leaders, right? You start to feel like, I don't know, at one point, neither one of these parties is helping us.
Well, they both seem like parties
for Trump
that
just to
have gotten
feel
us into
something.
war. I mean, $6 trillion it cost us into Iraq and Afghanistan. And we need now an anti-war movement in this country. And I don't think it has to be Democrat or Republican. I think Americans are sick of war.
And thank you, man, for talking about this stuff with me, man. It
No,
even
I mean-
helps just like, one thing I noticed, even we spoke on the phone the other night, man, and it just like, after I got on the phone with you, I felt a little better. I was like, at least I have somebody to talk about this with. Dude, yesterday I'm leaving this restaurant and a guy comes up to me. He's missing a tooth, or he was missing one. And he was like, hey, man, thanks for speaking up about Palestine stuff. And I said, well, I don't know a ton about it. It's just kind of how I feel. And he goes, well, I think a lot of people are just afraid to speak up. They're afraid if they speak against Israel that they're going to be labeled an anti-Semite. And I was like, oh, no. I said, I understand that, but I think that's just a verbal trap. You know, I said, you can have, I have tons of Jewish friends that I talk to every day, and I don't think what Netanyahu is doing is good. But anyway,
Don't
man,
undersell yourself. You have more common sense and your values than 90% of the foreign policy blob that has gotten us into all these wars and that has compromised our humanity. There's a reason the founders wanted Congress to be making decisions about war and peace. They trusted the American people, right? Like the kings of the past, when the founders were there, they would just do wars for their own glory. And the American people the founders were really suspicious of that. And they said, you know what? We actually trust the farmers and the people in factories and ordinary Americans not to get us into all this stuff. And they trusted people like you, Theo. And the problem is that your voice has gotten out of Washington and not central to it. But now we've got all these podcasts and they can't ignore you. So good for you to try to take back citizen voices. That's what